I never imagined the hidden stories of Brazil's top 10 billionaires would change my life forever. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. My heart raced as I opened that file, millions in hidden dealings flashing before my eyes, like a countdown to chaos. I felt the weight of secrets, heavy and suffocating. Each billionaire held stories that twisted within me, like serpents ready to strike. There was Dario, the media mogul whose empire was built on whispers and lies. Or Alicia, the art collector who hid priceless treasures in a mansion where shadows danced on the walls, each echo a hint of stolen glories. I could almost hear the glitter of jewels and the murmur of voices long silenced. But it was Jonathan, the youngest of them all, whose tragic fall from grace captivated my soul. He lost everything in a single night. The headlines screaming devoured his life whole. I thought of my own life then, the relevance of ambition. I felt connected to them, these titans of industry, caught in their webs of greed and passion. My family struggled to afford rent, each day a battle we fought tenaciously. But these billionaires played a different game altogether. Their worlds glittered with untold riches, yet underneath, I sensed the guilt, the pain, and the relentless chase for more as I dove deeper into their stories. The nights blurred, my laptop glowing like a beacon in the dark. I uncovered secrets, dirt hidden beneath luxury rugs and extravagant dinners. Fear crawled up my spine. Would they come after me? Such power was terrifying. Money could silence anyone. My hands trembled as I typed, revealing $1 billion scandal after another. My chest tightened. What if I was next? And just as I thought, I grasped the depths of their tragedies. An email pinged in my inbox, a name I dared not speak. Changed everything. My breath hitched. It didn't just come from a billionaire, but from someone I knew intimately, someone whose betrayal was sharper than any knife. My heart raced. What did they want from me? The shadows danced imaginatively in my mind, and I felt every nerve in my body hum with electric dread. Hey! Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. I stared at the blinking cursor on the screen, words faltering on the edge of my fingertips. The email from Daniel, a name that once brought warmth to my heart, now sent icy tendrils of dread wrapping around my chest. The last time I had seen him, he was leaving, perhaps for good, and the pain of that farewell had seared into my memory. He was supposed to be my anchor, but now he felt like another wave threatening to drown me. Subject: we need to talk, it read. The casual formality struck me as the cruelest of jests. In the tangled web of billionaire secrets and corporate greed, I had not accounted for the betrayal of someone I had loved. But could I trust him? Would he hurt me further or offer salvation amidst the chaos? The sun dipped low outside my window, casting long shadows in my small apartment, which now felt like a prison. I glanced at the stack of unpaid bills teetering on my desk, their reminders raw and relentless. Even as thoughts of my own failure gnawed at me, pushing Daniel's email aside took all of my strength. I grudgingly opened it, the tension in the air palpable. Please, just meet me. I can explain everything. I closed my eyes, the memories of our laughter and dreams buzzing in the background like a film I couldn't pause. How could he ask me to see him after all that had happened? He had chosen ambition over our relationship, pursuing a path that led him to a network of the very billionaires whose secrets now weighed on my soul. As I battled my own demons, I felt an unexpected rush of charity pierce the heavy darkness in the atmosphere. The knock on my door pulled me from my spiraling thoughts. When I opened it, a girl from the building's community service group stood there, arms spilling over with groceries. I heard you could use some help, she said, her smile bright against the gray of my world. For a moment, warmth surged through me. It was easier to accept kindness from strangers. They didn't know the chaos rattling in my mind, They were simply offering a slice of humanity that felt out of reach. "Thank you," I murmured, battling tears that threatened to spill. She handed me a bright yellow bag emblazoned with a cheerful sun. Inside were fresh produce and canned goods, small tokens of solidarity, each item a silent promise that I wasn't utterly alone. "You know," she said lightly, "our kitchen is open every Saturday for anyone who wants a meal. You should come. We're a fun crowd." A laugh escaped my lips, shaky yet genuine. It was such a simple invitation, but to me, it felt like the world tilting back toward normalcy, even if just for a fleeting moment. After she left, I set the groceries on my table, gazing at the vibrant colors of the fruits as if they were new life sprouting amidst the rubble of my existence. With renewed determination, I returned to my laptop. The temptation to dive back into the web of betrayal consumed me, drawing me like moth to flame. As I began to sift through Jonathan's tragic downfall, how he lost everything overnight, my phone buzzed again. I glanced at the screen, heart racing when I recognized Daniel's name. "Tomorrow morning, same cafe. You need to hear my side of the story." His urgency perplexed me. I knew that every second I naively clung to hope might risk my safety. Yet, against the scrutiny of the billionaires I was entangled with, every fragment of fear was thrown against a looming wall of need for closure that I rubbed my temple, torn between a yearning to unleash my fury and the allure of understanding. Maybe he held the key to untangling the chaos that now defined my life. But desperation clawed at me. Gaining moment-uma revelation of betrayal would hurt far more than the secrets I already uncovered. As I stared at the flickering shadows once more, memories of our laughter morphed into a haze of uncertainty. My older brother had once said, "Understanding someone only brings you closer to the truth. But sometimes the truth is the last thing you want." And just as the thought anchored me, a sudden burst of commotion echoed from outside. I peered out the window, my pulse quickening. Crowd had gathered across the street, near the posh establishment where the elite wined and dined without a care in the world. I squinted, heart sinking, recognizing the unmistakable figure of Jonathan, flanked by cameras and throngs of reporters. The inevitable question danced upon everyone's lips. Had he just returned from the shadows? Would he expose his own truths, or would he take down everyone in his wake, including me? As the cameras flashed and the world outside heaved with speculation, I realized this moment could change everything. Suddenly, the email and my unfinished journey of reckoning with Daniel felt far too trivial. With the chaotic storm of billionaires swirling at my doorstep, my choices would forge a path that could ultimately destroy or redeem me. As the crowd roared and hope intermingled with dread, my heart pounded, echoing one undeniable truth. I was no longer merely a witness. I was part of a story poised to unravel beyond my control, and possibly beyond redemption. The morning sun broke through the lingering clouds, but its rays felt more like daggers slicing through the stillness of my anxious thoughts. I had spent the night tossing and turning, graphing the paths my life had taken, only to be drawn back and forth between heartache and hope. Daniel's meeting loomed like a specter over my day, and as I stood by the mirror, my reflection looked haggard under the weight of untold truths. Gripping my phone, I inhaled sharply. With every passing minute, I felt an invisible tether tightening, pulling me closer to the impending confrontation. The cafe where we had shared countless laughs and secrets now felt like an arena set for battle. I grabbed a jacket as I glanced at the untouched groceries from the previous day, their vibrant colors now dull reminders of warmth that had faded too quickly as I walked through the streets. The hum of the city enveloped me, serving as a recollection of who I used to be before the storm. I stumbled upon the same bright young girl from yesterday, now working at a local bakery, packaging loaves of bread with a smile that shone like the sun. "Hey, you made it to the community kitchen last night?" she asked, pausing to wipe her flour-dusted hands. "Not last night," I replied, forcing a smile despite the twisted knots in my stomach. "But I will, I promise. Do you need a boost?" she offered, quickly reaching for a fresh croissant. The offer was generous, and I was grateful for her kindness, a small flicker of warmth in my otherwise turbulent emotions. As she handed me the pastry, I caught a fleeting glimpse of her sincerity, an unguarded moment unspoiled by my chaos. "You're not alone, okay?" she added softly, her eyes radiating concern. I nodded appreciatively, stuffing the croissant into my bag before continuing on my way, savoring the taste of compassion. It ignited a tiny flame of hope amidst the darkness, a gentle reminder that some light can be found, even on the longest of nights. Finally, I stepped into the cafe, the familiar scent of brewed coffee mingling with the anxious thoughts swirling inside my head. My heart raced as I spotted Daniel seated at our usual table, his expression a cocktail of remorse and resolve. I hesitated at the entrance, my body demanding a retreat. "Just hear him out," I whispered to myself, and with that, I took a step forward. The clatter of cups faded into the background as I closed the distance between us. We locked eyes, and for a moment, the world around us vanished, distorting into a memory not too far gone. Then the sound of a chair scraping against the floor broke the spell. "I am sorry for everything," he choked out, the weight of his words hanging heavy in the air between us. "I never meant for it to get this far. I thought I was doing what was right." "Right for who, Daniel?" My voice trembled as I fought against the flood of emotions threatening to drown us both. "You left when I needed you most. I know. But there are things you don't understand." The secrets in the vault got darker, and deeper. His voice faltered, wrestling with the truth behind his gaze. "I didn't know how to pull you back in without putting you in danger." Danger. The word sent icy fingers racing down my spine. Could it be his revelation of betrayal had more dire consequences than I imagined? I've been walking a tightrope for far too long, and now Jonathan is back in the picture, causing chaos and media storms. "You honestly think I want to dance with betrayal again?" His eyes flickered with desperation. "I need your help." "Help?" I spat, incredulity crashing over me. "You sacrificed everything we had for money and power. What could you possibly need from me?" He leaned in closer, and I could see the shadows beneath his eyes, fraught with distress. "I suspect they're coming for you too. There's a reason Jonathan is back. He's facing a reckoning, and smart money says he's coming for those who stood with him or against him." Panic gripped me, and I clutched my coffee cup tightly as my mind raced through the implications. Unraveling the truth about Jonathan's return felt like shaking a hornet's nest. "You can't put me in the line of fire again," I whispered, dread pooling in my stomach. "I've learned enough about their secrets to know it won't just be me they go after. If you're right, I wouldn't let anything happen to you," he assured me fervently, his eyes pleading for me to believe. Just as the tension reached its zenith, the sharp ringing of my phone pierced the atmosphere, slicing through the vulnerability of our exchange. I glanced down, stunned, as I recognized Jonathan's number flashing across the screen. My heart raced. "ID never intended to get tangled in his web again. Do you want to hear what he has to say?" Daniel's voice was a rasp, laced with an urgency that echoed my own inner turmoil. That I hesitated, the weight of my decision hanging in the air, thick with uncertainty, and all of my instincts screamed for me to run. But the moment stretched, teetering on the edge of a precipice, and just like that, my voice broke, quiet yet resolute. "I need to take it. I can't keep running in the shadows of their secrets." Daniel's eyes widened as realization dawned on him, perhaps too late to alter the course of fate. In that instant, perhaps realizing the gravity of my decision, he clenched my hand, igniting something within me, understanding that I was stepping into a maelstrom. With a nod, I answered the call, dread coiling around my heart, unaware that Jonathan was about to toss a grenade into my world that would change everything. As his voice slithered through the receiver, an unsettling surge of adrenaline coursed through my veins, marking the beginning of a plot that would unravel far beyond my control. The cafe was eerily quiet as Jonathan's voice resonated through the receiver, sending shivers rippling through my skin. "It's been a long time, hasn't it? Funny how fate has a way of weaving our paths together again." His voice oozed with a confidence that only cut through my resolve, fueling the gnarled remnants of fear that had lodged themselves deep within me. "Get to the point, Jonathan," I shot back, my hand gripping the edge of the table as if it could anchor me against the tempestuous waves crashing in my mind. Deep down, I felt the old wounds reopening, the memories trickling back like a bittersweet caress that mixed nostalgia with apprehension. "I want to meet," he insisted, his tones suddenly serious. "I have something to share, something you need to know. Concerns you and Daniel, and I fear you might be in deeper than you realize." "Why would I ever trust you?" I countered, and yet part of me was still grappling with the disquieting notion that curiosity could very well lead me to the answers I sought. "Because, dear, you're already in this whether you like it or not," he purred, and I could picture him smirking through the phone, confident in his manipulation of my dread. "Meet me tonight. It'll bring the answers you've been missing." I hung up, feeling the cold reality settle in my chest like a weight that would soon suffocate me. Daniel's face was a storm of emotion, a mix of determination and fear. "You can't trust him. He's dangerous, and you know it." "Maybe I don't have a choice," I admitted, swallowing hard against the looming chasm of my decisions. "Maybe he knows things that could help us." "Help us?" Daniel's voice was incredulous now, his hands tightening around my own. "Or help himself. Hell use it against you, and you know that. We can't ignore that Jonathan's back in town." "Daniel," I said, gathering my strength. "Hell seek revenge, and if he finds us caught off guard, well, be the collateral damage." Daniel ran a hand through his disheveled hair, anguish twisting his features. "Then he'll come with you. No. The word escaped my lips more forcefully than I intended. "You can't. It's too risky. I can't put you in harm's way again." The weight of my past decisions weighed on me. Each choice I made seemed to echo like a haunting refrain. Our eyes locked, the unsaid words heavy between us, understanding mingled with unvoiced fears. But therein lay another layer of turmoil. Despite everything, despite the betrayal, the pain, and the uncertainty, I couldn't deny the tenderness lurking in the recesses of my heart for Daniel. "What if he doesn't just want me?" I whispered, the thought flooding my voice with electricity. "What if this time, he wants to take everything from us, starting with you?" His expression softened, and in that moment, we were two souls adrift amidst a storm, yearning but fearful of what the tempest might unleash. "You could tell him to back off," he suggested, though I could see the flicker of doubt in his eyes. I inhaled sharply, feeling the weight of the world pressing down upon my shoulders. "And hand him more ammunition. Then let me help. Please, let me be there." I could hear the desperation in his tone, laced with the memories of survival we shared. "We can strategize," I offered, a hint of defiance lighting my voice. "We can't let fear dictate our moves." But even as I spoke the words, I felt the ice nudging at the edges of my resolve. Perhaps it was bravado, or perhaps a desperate grasp for power in a world that constantly felt out of reach. "We can meet him just to gauge what he knows," I conceded, though my gut churned at the very thought. As the day waned, shadows danced on the pavement, bathed in the dwindling light of the sunset. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding with the weight of an invisible clock counting down to a confrontation that sent shudders through my very core. Hope and dread tangled in a fraying dance, and as I pulled my phone from my pocket, I could feel the chill of Jonathan's expected presence looming closer. As the hour approached, Daniel and I hovered on the edge of uncertainty. I glanced at the park bench under the old oak tree, where I agreed to meet Jonathan. It stood like a portal to either salvation or downfall. "Promise me, if anything seems off, you'll stay away," I said, turning to Daniel, his brow furrowed in concern. "I can't promise that," he responded, the tension in his voice straining against the boundaries of his emotions. "I just can't stand the thought of something happening to you." I squeezed his hand, searching for strength in our shared connection, even as a profound sadness whispered through me, "Is this really the path we'd chosen?" The sun dipped low, casting long shadows that felt like fingers reaching for me, and as I approached the bench, my heart raced not only with fear but with a thread of hope that perhaps, just perhaps, the night would yield answers that could turn the tide of this relentless storm. That hope flickering within was as fragile as a candle flame, begging for survival against the looming darkness. Suddenly, as I neared the bench, I spotted a figure standing alone under the gloaming sky, a phantom of uncertainty. Jonathan. But beside him, a silhouette I recognized all too well. My blood ran cold as the layers of betrayal peeled away, revealing the stark horror of a truth that was just about to unfold. The figure wasn't just a shadow from my past. It was someone I had trusted, someone I thought had distanced themselves from the darkness. And just like that, the threads of fate tightened, weaving a tapestry of secrets waiting to unravel at my feet. I stood motionless, heart pounding furiously against the implications of this haunting revelation, knowing that the answers I sought were about to plunge me into a web of deception more tangled than I had ever anticipated. As I stood frozen under the dimming twilight, the intricate web of emotions I had been holding at bay burst forth like a floodgate, unleashing the river within me. Jonathan's presence was overwhelming, but it was the familiar figure beside him that sent my mind reeling. Lydia, my once close confidant, who I thought had turned her back on all the chaos that had engulfed our lives. Surprise, surprise, Jonathan said, a sly smirk plastered across his face as he leaned casually against the oak tree. His voice dripped with a malicious satisfaction, like a spider reveling in the trap it had spun. I figured bringing a friend would spice things up. You're the last person I'd call a friend. I shot back, the tremor in my voice barely concealed as I fought against the rising tide of betrayal churning within me. Lydia, how could you? Lydia's eyes flicked to Jonathan before settling back on me, confusion melding with the remorse etched on her face. I didn't want to drag you into this. I thought it was safer for you not to know. There was a desperation in her tone, but it felt insincere, untrustworthy. Safer? The word left my lips like venom, laced with incredulity. You and Jonathan? You've been working with him all this time? Not like that, I swear, she protested, stepping forward. He wanted to keep his secrets close, and I thought, maybe he could help. I never meant to deceive you. Help? Daniel interjected, his posture tense with protective fury as he positioned himself slightly in front of me, as if shielding me from an unseen threat. You call this help? Let's all calm down, Jonathan interrupted smoothly, his icy demeanor unshaken. Can't we agree that a little cooperation could benefit us all? After all, we're all tangled in this mess. As the words hung uncomfortably in the air, I could feel the layers of uneasy alliances closing in around us. My heart raced, thrumming a chaotic rhythm that resonated with distrust and the sharp bite of betrayal. How had I not seen this coming? Lydia had once been my anchor, my trusted ally through the storm of Jonathan's machinations. A sense of panic welled as I recalled the locked doors and whispered conversations that had shrouded the last few weeks in an uneasy haze. What exactly are you involved in, Lydia? I demanded, the urgency in my voice pulling at the strands of clarity I desperately sought. Her gaze faltered, as if the weight of her choices threatened to overwhelm her. I just wanted to protect what we've built. Jonathan had information about my family's finances, information that could ruin us. I thought if I played along, if I just kept you out of it, maybe we could find a way out together. Jonathan's cryptic smile widened, delighting in the tension wrapping itself around us. Family finances. Isn't that always the crux of collaboration? Lies and secrets fast as a speeding train. Enough of your riddles. Daniel spat, frustration edging his voice harsh. You put her in danger, did you know that? You've always done this. Manipulated others to get what you want. Touching, really. But the truth doesn't care for your self-righteous commentary. Jonathan's tone slipped back into that patient, menacing familiarity. Hey Race, the deal, each of you needs to decide what part of this story you want to own. I hold the cards, and you can either cooperate, or I promise it will unravel with consequences you cannot even begin to grasp. A chill ran through me, and in that moment, I realized the extent of his hold. Lydia wasn't just a pawn. She had willingly entered a game I had thought was isolated to Jonathan and me. What does he want, Lydia? I pressed, seeking any glimmer of truth in the shadows. What's the real plan? Her lip quivered, torn between her loyalty to Jonathan and the friendship we once shared. He wanted to leverage my family's business connections, to broker deals with men who are far more powerful than I can fathom. She stammered, eyes darting toward Jonathan, who watched with an unsettling eagerness. But I didn't know it would involve you. I never imagined. The panic in my chest tightened like a vice. We're tangled in a game much larger than I had anticipated. each piece poised to fall with the slightest push. "How is this supposed to help us, Jonathan?" I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. "In due time, dear. But only if you're willing to play along," he replied, swaggering slightly closer. The palpable threat in the air thickened until it nearly suffocated me. "Join me, and perhaps we can forge a world where your loved ones won't suffer because of misplaced trust." With that, the roots of despair dug deeper as the burden of unspoken truths tangled into our shared narratives. My heart raced with uncertainty. Each minute spent under his gaze tightened the noose around us. Lydia's gaze fell to the ground, revealing her turmoil as she wrestled with guilt and fear. Suddenly, my phone buzzed within my pocket, a harsh interruption to the surreal tension that surrounded us. The screen flashed Daniel's name, his smile forever nestled in my memory as buoyant and full of promise, reminding me of all that was at stake. But as I fumbled to silence it, a sense of impending doom loomed large. Who could I trust now? The shadows swirled around me, and with Jonathan's last words echoing in my mind, I felt the floor beneath me crack, threatening to swallow me whole. The revelation of secrets long hidden clung to me like shadows as I faced the monsters I once thought were merely figments of my imagination. "Time's ticking," Jonathan said, his eyes glinting with mischief. "What will it be?" As I glanced at Lydia, searching for a thread of hope, I felt the raw emotions of the moment crash over meth. Undeniable connection I still held for Daniel and the bitter loyalty I had once cherished with Lydia enveloped in a swirling tempest of designated endings and uncertain beginnings. Little did I know, the clock was already running, and my answer would ripple through our lives, changing the patterns of trust and betrayal in a way I could not yet comprehend. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the muted twilight cast an eerie glow over our escalating standoff. I stood there, my body aching with confusion and heartbreak, while Lydia's face told a story of regret that I was not ready to read. Jonathan, meanwhile, basked in the frenzy he had brewed, waiting patiently for our next move as if we were characters in a game he controlled. "Do you think this is a joke?" I spat, my heart emphasizing each word with the weight of betrayal. "Because I assure you, it's not funny. This is our lives." Daniel's hands clenched into fists at his sides, the tension radiating from him palpable. It was as if the air itself had taken a gasp, bracing for the ensuing storm. "You have to stop this," he said, addressing Lydia but directing his fury back at Jonathan. "You can't let him manipulate you. Not again." Lydia flinched slightly at his words, her defiance deflating under the weight of truth. But there was an unmistakable flicker of something deeper reflected in her eyes, a yearning for redemption. Perhaps. I wanted to believe it, to believe that the girl who once held my hand through thick and thin was still there beneath the layers of deceit. "Maybe we can find a way out of this," she suggested tentatively, her voice small and wavering. "If we work together?" Jonathan interrupted, his voice dripping with derision. "You think this is a cooperative exercise? You think any of this is about teamwork?" He emphasized the last word, spinning the taunt like a web around us. "You're all just pieces on a board where I decide the moves. I offered you safety, Lydia, but now you threaten that very foundation." Fear laced through my veins as I realized how deeply intertwined her fate was with his. "Lydia, you have to tell us everything," I urged, desperation overtaking the earlier anger in my tone. "What else does he want? What does he know?" Her gaze dropped again, and the silence that followed was suffocating. A flicker of vulnerability crossed her face as she looked up, meeting my eyes with a hint of determination. "He knows about your family," she whispered, the words a tremor that sent chills through me. "About the company you're involved with and the things they've done." "What things?" I demanded, my heart pounding relentlessly. "What does he know?" "Enough to expose the truths that could destroy everything," she replied, voice frail as if the very weight of what she revealed threatened to collapse her. I thought I could protect you by staying away. But in my absence, he learned more than I could warn you about." "Then why didn't you just tell me? Why didn't you reach out?" My voice cracked as I struggled to hold myself together. The very foundation of my reality was shifting, and with every unsettling revelation, I felt the ground beneath me grow less stable. I was terrified. She burst out, her frustration spilling over. I thought I could control this. I thought I could fix it without dragging you back into the chaos. There was a despair in her eyes, a reflection of the years of friendship that felt endlessly frayed, but still slightly woven together. An unsettling laughter filled the air as Jonathan interjected. Ah, the futility of trust in the face of dread. How precious. He took a step closer, narrowing the space between us like a hunter relishing his catch. But tell me, what will you do now? Two naive souls surrounded by much darker forces? Will you huddle together for warmth to face the abyss? His words were a punch to my gut, and yet something deep inside sparked a flicker of defiance against the tides of hopelessness. The closeness to despair felt like an old friend, and though fear crept through my bones, I refused to let it bind me. We will find a way to stop you, Jonathan, I asserted, my voice stronger, fortified suddenly by the unwavering bond of friendship still tethering me to Lydia. That's rich, he quipped, eyebrow arched in mockery. But you see, hope rarely triumphs when it's fueled by mere sentiments. Let's see where your determination leads you. Suddenly, my phone vibrated again, the screen lighting up once more with Daniel's name. I hesitated, glancing at the screen before tearing my gaze back to Lydia's imploring eyes. It wasn't just about the secrets, the webs of deceit. It was about how many lives would be affected by whatever Jonathan had planned. A sudden awareness settled upon me, a weighty reality of what must be done to protect those we cared about. To end that moment of clarity, a choice loomed before me, heavy and trembling with the power it held. I can't let either of you play with my family like puppets on strings anymore. Jonathan, you underestimate us. We won't go down without a fight. Oh, but that's the spirit. Jonathan clapped his hands together in delight. This game is just beginning, and you'll find the tokens might just become a little darker with every round played. But I'm eager as a spectator. After all, nothing is as entertaining as watching alliances unravel. As the lingering twilight began to surrender to the night, the shadows danced more creatively, teasing its secrets I had yet to uncover. My heart thumped louder than ever, and I reached for my phone, the pull of urgency beckoning me as I prepared myself for the truth that could either shatter or unite us. But before I could dial, a sudden scream shattered the fabric of the night, echoing out from the distance. My heart dropped. That voice, it was a haunting melody I never quite understood until now. The world around me suddenly spun, and everything took on a sharper focus, a perilous lens through which I could see how quickly lives could change, all because of choices made long before I existed. I had come to uncover truth, but now I stood on the precipice of far darker revelations. My hand trembled, the phone slipping from my grasp, the echoes of dread clawing into the air. Who was that? I whispered, my breath shaky as dread pooled in my stomach, fear slicing through the very essence of my resolve. Jonathan's eyes glinted with a sinister satisfaction as he tilted his head. Why, my dear, let's just say secrets have a way of making themselves known. Ready to play? And as the distance between us and the unknown bristled with uncertainty, I felt the clock ticking down, bound by the unfolding chaos, each passing moment promising discovery but veiled in danger, echoing the truth I had yet to prepare for. The hidden mysteries of loyalty, betrayal, and the power of knowing would soon be revealed, but the path remained littered with unresolved darkness. The moment the scream pierced through the night, a chill raced down my spine. My heart felt as if it had tangled with the shadows around me, squeezing tighter with each frantic beat. Lydia gripped my arm, her own eyes wide with fear as we both searched for the source of that heart-wrenching cry. Maybe it's just a prank, she said, but her voice lacked the conviction we both needed to hear. That didn't sound like a prank, Daniel replied, his earlier fury momentarily replaced by dread. The air was thick with uncertainty, and the weight of Jonathan's knowing gaze pressed heavier upon us. Perhaps one of your family's precious associates is in trouble? Jonathan uttered, his tone dripping with insincerity. Or perhaps it's something more entertaining. He leaned in slightly as if sharing a secret with us. You see, chaos is the birth of new opportunities. That I wanted to scream at him, to demand he reveal what he knew. But the question gnawed at me, would that even matter? What if he knew something beyond my grasp? What if his manipulation was far deeper than I could imagine? Panic bubbled beneath my skin, threatening to boil over. "Lydia, we need to check if that person's okay," I urged, my voice barely above a whisper. "We can't just stand here." I turned to Daniel, whose clenched jaw suggested he shared my thoughts. "Let's go," he said resolutely, his protective nature surfacing like an ancient instinct. Without waiting for any objections from Jonathan, we broke into a sprint, the fading echoes of the scream guiding us toward its source. Our feet pounded against the gravel, urgency propelling us into the restorative embrace of the night air, invigorating but somehow thick with static tension. As we turned a corner, the moonlight illuminated a figure crumpled on the ground, the silvery glow offering a stark contrast to the dark, damp earth. A part of my mind recoiled at the idea of approaching, but I forced myself forward, the dread of unanswered questions outweighing the unknown consequences. When we reached the figure, I gasped, recognition flooding my senses. It was Clara, a hacker I had once met at a technology summit. Her reputation preceded her as one of the foremost whistleblowers in the industry. Her face was pale, a small bruise forming on her cheek, and her eyes blinked rapidly as if struggling to gather her thoughts. "Clara." I knelt beside her, a desperate need to comfort igniting its flame within me. "What happened?" She stammered, her breath shaky. "They're coming for the files. The billionaire's secrets." I was too late. "What?" Lydia's voice trembled alongside mine. "What do you mean?" "I tried to warn you," Clara whispered, her voice hoarse and weak. "They're on to you. They'll stop at nothing to bury the truth." Her gaze darted to Jonathan's unbothered presence lingering just behind us, a shadow of malice looming, and Clara recoiled slightly. "You have to believe me. There's more at stake than you know. They'll destroy everything if you don't act fast." My thoughts raced, intertwining with the whirlwind of emotions swirling through me. The weight of her words was both illuminating and terrifying. "What do they want?" I pressed, gasping for clarity amid the chaos. "You're sitting at the center of it all," Clara rasped. "Your family's empire is built on secrets so deep they could bring a revolution. They will dismiss you, remove you, sacrifice you if they think you're a liability. Jonathan's grip is just a taste of the shadows that rise." In that instant, as her words settled like a heavy fog, my resolve solidified, intertwining my fate with those who remained in the dark. I had become entangled in a web I had not anticipated, fueled by more than just survival. It was a fight for truth. Before I could respond, there was a noticeable shift in the air as Jonathan's laughter echoed through the alleyway. "Ah, the glorious revelation. The stakes have risen, my friends. Are you still so eager to play?" Anger surged through me to meet his delight. "This isn't your game anymore. Lives are on the line." Jonathan feigned innocence, taking a step closer as his eyes narrowed. "You misunderstand. I'm merely the party planner. The real players will soon arrive, and oh, how they adore their secrets." Before I could grasp the full extent of his insinuation, a sudden rustling rose from the depths of the alleyway behind us. The shadows shifted, and a group of figures emerged, their intentions wrapped in faceless masks. Every heart-pounding moment felt like a dance upon a knife's edge. My breath hitched, anxiety spiraling into panic. "Run!" I shouted, urgently pulling Clara to her feet. The gravity of her warning echoed in my mind, but our legs moved with the urgency of survival as we fled through the echoing dark. The promise of chaos chased after us, and the truth, the raw, bitter truth, seemed poised to surface with every desperate choice we made. This was no longer just about Jonathan. It was about the very foundations that had supported our lives crumbling beneath us. Now, there was no turning back. The shadows would either consume us or forge us anew. I took a quick glance at my friends, our eyes locked in an understanding that transcended words. The game had changed, and with each breath, the thrill of desperation intertwined with fragments of courage. And in that pulsating darkness, as the silhouettes loomed closer, I felt a wave of impending reckoning wash over me. We would either unearth the secrets that could save us or be swept away, lost to the warning signs of betrayal and greed that had been woven too tightly around us. The alleyway became a labyrinth of shadows, each corner twisting with the weight of our fears and the urgency of our breaths. Clara's body pressed against mine, her fragile frame shivering, Not just from the cold but from the reality that the legends of untouchable wealth had enigmas lurking far deeper than I had anticipated. As we stumbled through the darkness, Lydia and Daniel flanked us, their expressions a mix of resolve and terror. "What do we do?" Lydia panted, her voice clutching at the edges of panic. "We can't outrun them forever." "Not forever," I said, bolstered by a flicker of determination. "But we can buy time. We need a plan." The weight of Jonathan's laughter still hung in the air, taunting us like a cruel rhyme. But as fear intertwined with the found resolve, a sudden thought struck. Meth files Clara had spoken of. Were they hidden somewhere? Did I have the means to secure them? "Listen," I exclaimed through labored breaths, pulling the trio closer. "We need to find those files. They can expose everything. If we don't know what we're up against, we're just throwing ourselves to the wolves." "They could be at the warehouse," Clara strained, the color draining from her face. "Where I was last seen, where I tried to leak the information. Do you think we can make it?" Daniel asked, his eyes scanning the shadows ominously creeping toward the mouth of the alley. "We have to." I felt the conviction rippling through me despite the thickening tension. "It's our only chance. If we don't know what we're fighting against." With a collective nod, we shifted toward the warehouse district, a memory buried under my family's empire but resurfacing now with every aching footfall. The old structures loomed like giants contaminated with darkness, but there also flickered a possibility of safety in their dilapidated corners. As we approached, an unexpected kindness caught my attention. A small van idled by the street, its interior dimly lit, illuminating just enough to see a woman cradling what appeared to be a medley of crates. She lifted her head as we drew nearer, her gaze searching our faces. "Get in," she urged. "I saw you running. You're in danger, aren't you?" "Who are you?" I hesitated, grappling with the trust that always felt a step away from betrayal. "Just someone who knows the danger all too well." She glanced back nervously. "Please, there's no time. I can help. You don't have to go into that night without a chance." With a chaotic mixture of fear and hope, we clambered into the back of the van, filled with crates that looked like they could hold everything from groceries to secrets. The woman quickly introduced herself as Mira. "You're at a crossroads," she said, her voice steady as she steered us away from the chaos. "If you're with Clara, then you've stumbled upon something bigger than anyone can control. But there's a way out and a way in. Take us to the files," I pleaded, glancing at Clara, whose features were etched with concern. "We can't run from this anymore." "The files are only part of the picture," Mira responded, her grip tightening on the steering wheel. "There are stories behind them. Information that could unlock truths you've never imagined." As we hurtled through the city streets, tension thickened in the small space, weaving fragility into the growing web with every breath we took. I glanced at Clara, who looked both haunted and hopeful, her eyes glistening in the low light. "Clara, what did you uncover?" I ventured, feeling the need to understand the extent of our newfound mission. "What was so dangerous that it left you like that?" She hesitated, then turned to meet my anxious stare. "The truth about your family and the billionaires. They're connected in ways that are far more sinister than just business. There's corruption, ties to crime, and the betrayal runs deeper than anyone outside can know." Mira's gaze remained focused on the road ahead, but the tension in her posture indicated a weight of understanding. "The billionaires protect their wealth through darkness," she added. "And if they're threatened, they play for keeps. You need to know this. It's not just about survival, but about what's at stake. Lives, trust, truth." The emotional undertow clutched at me, pulling me into a whirlpool of dread as Clara's revelations settled within my gut, both alarming and galvanizing. Could wading through the hidden stories of Brazil's elite truly alter the very fabric of who I was? Our van skidded to a stop, and Mira quickly turned to us. "This is it. There's a cache of data I have access to, a safe space where we can unlock the files. But I need your help." Your family's resources could connect the dots. I felt a surge of excitement intermingled with dread. It wasn't just my life on the line. This was a moment that could unravel great power. I faced my friends, searching their eyes for a glimmer of understanding. "Are we ready for this?" I asked quietly, aware of the monumental task ahead. But before any of us could respond, The shudder of figures in the street caught my attention. The masked shadows were back, morphing from caution into pursuit, and their ominous presence loomed larger than the night itself. With a jagged intake of breath, I realized this was no longer merely a fight against Jonathan or a desperate run for survival. We were hurtling toward something that could consume us all in the wake of the billionaire's secrets. The game had changed, and the pieces were so much more than just pawns on a board. As we emerged from the van, I felt the undercurrents of adrenaline building, pulling me toward the world beyond what I had known. And then Clara's phone buzzed to life in her pocket. She paused, pulling it out, her face drained of color as she read the message. With a trembling breath, she caught my eye, and I braced myself for the revelation that would shatter the fragile hope we had built. "It's from Jonathan," she whispered, her voice a trembling silk. "He knows where we are." A chill crept through the air as Clara's voice fell flat, the weight of Jonathan's words curling around us like an iron shroud. "He knows where we are." The room that had crackled with possibility suddenly felt small, suffocating. "What does it say?" Daniel asked, his eyes wide and searching, racing between hope and despair. Clara swallowed hard, her hand trembling as she held her phone a little tighter, her thumb hovering over the screen as if it were a snake coiled and ready to strike. "It's a threat. He's coming for us, and he says hell make sure we pay for what we've done. That nothing will stop him from protecting his empire." A silence descended, punctuated only by the distant sounds of the city outside the van, life continuing in a world oblivious to the storm brewing around us. Clutching each other's hands, we caught our breath, sensing shadows deepening in the corners of our minds. "Can you forward it to me?" I asked, a flicker of determination igniting within me. "We need to gather every piece of intel we can. If Jonathan thinks he knows what we're doing, we can turn the tables." Clara hesitated, her face a storm of emotion, fear tangled with anger. With trembling fingers, she forwarded the message before we devolved into shared anxiety. I took it in, scanning the words that dripped with venom. It was a reminder of the stakes we had stepped into. The power dynamic shifted under our feet like sand in an hourglass. "We need to move," Mira urged, her voice low and insistent. "They won't wait long." She was right, they wouldn't, and as the shadows morphed into a deeper layer of danger, the urgency sunk sharp, biting at our resolve. "Let's go to the safe space you mentioned," I said, gathering my courage amidst the gathering storm. We slipped from the van, our hearts pounding with trepidation and unbound determination. The street felt alive, yet there was a cadence of fear threading through USA rhythm only we could sense. Mira led us toward a narrow pathway, hidden between towering structures that whispered against each other in the wind. The city loomed all around, steel and glass entwined with shadows, but in the haze of our desperation, we clung to the remnants of hope. "Inside, there's a server we can access," Mira explained as we crept into a dim warehouse. The musty scent of old wood and rust filled the air, familiar yet foreboding. Each glance exchanged told the unspoken fears we bore, yet it was also a space where hope dared to flicker, an ember waiting for a gust to ignite it into flame. As we huddled around the flickering screen, Mira's fingers danced across the keyboard, quickly bypassing digital locks that held secrets tightly bound. I tried to focus, but the pulse of Clara's anxiety thrummed against my skin, a constant reminder of the danger spiraling closer. "We need to find those files," I urged. "Let's uncover the connections here," Mira said, her voice barely above a whisper, as if the quiet might shield us from eavesdropping eyes. A virtual map of interconnected dots blinked to life, documents spilling out like confetti, each bearing names that held weight and darkness, and faces that nodded to histories laden with betrayal. The gravity of what lay before us gripped me. These weren't just files, they were lives tangled within a corrupt web. "We can expose this," I breathed, but doubt began to gnaw at me. "But at what cost?" "Never forget this world is ruthless," Mira echoed, her eyes pooling with a mix of empathy and caution. "They won't hesitate to silence anyone who threatens their empire. We're already marked." Just as the last words slipped from her lips, a thunderous crash resonated through the air, followed by the screaming sound of shattering glass. The warehouse had been violated, darkness spilling in like smoke unfurling around us. Adrenaline surged through our veins, propelling us toward the back exit. My heart raced, the instinct for survival battling against the need for truth. "Go!" I yelled, pushing Clara ahead of me. As we stumbled toward escape, the shadows of Jonathan's reach bore down upon us. We wedged ourselves behind a row of crates, holding our breath while the shadows moved closer, echoing through the warehouse like a predator on the hunt. The uncertainty squeezed my throat, yet I stole a glance at Clara, who stood resolute alongside me. In this moment of peril, her strength soothed the whirlwind within me, even as we stood against the harbingers of destruction. Then, through the chaos, I caught something out of the corner of my eye, a figure, masked and cloaked in darkness, sidestepping among the debris, their resolve palpable. My heart leaped in my chest, a fear and recognition riveted through me. "Wait," I breathed, tentatively reaching out, trying to decipher if it was friend or foe. But before I could call out, the figure turned sharply and locked eyes with me, the light catching just enough to unveil the contours of a familiar face. "Lucas?" I gasped. But the moment was fleeting. With a swift motion, he darted away into the dense shadows, leaving no opportunity for explanations, no time for connections rebuilt. Frustration coursed through me as I glanced back toward Clara, darkness lining the horizon of her eyes. Knowing what it could mean was clearly entwined in Jonathan's world now, and perhaps with ties that ran deeper than I had imagined. "Move," Mira urged again, shoving both Clara and me gently back into motion, our steps leading us further away from the chaos but toward an even deeper uncertainty. A cacophony of panicked heartbeats and sudden storms surged within me, brewing a maelstrom of questions that could no longer be ignored. As we fled into the night seeking escape while grappling with lies, truths, and the looming threat that marked our course, I understood that this tangled web of secrets would consume us if we didn't unravel it tightly, stitch by stitch. And little did I know, the next thread pulled would reveal far darker truths than the ones we had already uncovered. The chaos echoed in my mind as we sprinted down the darkened alley, every breath punctuated by the frantic pounding of my heart. Shadows danced mockingly around us, teasing whispers of the billionaire's secrets threatening to consume us whole. I could feel the weight of Jonathan's threat hanging heavy in the air, a reminder that each step forward put us further into danger. "Where do we go now?" Clara asked, her voice trembling with urgency as we pushed onward, determined to outrun the encroaching darkness. I turned to Mira, whose determination shone like a beacon amidst the uncertainty. "The old tech facility, there's an underground server we can access. It's the safe space I mentioned," Mira said, her voice steady but laced with a hint of urgency. "But we need to hurry before they catch up to us." The possibility of unearthing the truth filled me with a fierce resolve, but the implications weighed heavily. If we failed, the shadows would swallow everything we cherished: our lives, our secrets, our hopes. The path ahead felt more treacherous with each unanswered question, and I understood we were racing against more than just Jonathan. We were up against the very foundation of the world we had known, an empire built on betrayals buried beneath deception. As we approached the facility, a flicker of familiarity washed over me. It was a place I had visited years ago, sedated by the nostalgia of a world intact. But now it loomed like a reminder of my past entwined with the hidden truths I had been desperate to unravel. I exchanged glances with Clara and Daniel, determination mirrored in their eyes. But beneath that determination echoed the tremors of fear of unearthing truths too deep to be ignored. Mira led us through the darkened entrance, her skills at the forefront as she bypassed the locks with fluid precision. I held my breath, anticipation thrumming in the silence. As the heavy door swung open, a dim light flickered to life, illuminating row after row of tangled wires entangled with hushed secrets stored within the confines of servers. "We need to locate the files," I urged, positioning myself alongside Clara, watching as Mira weaved in and out, expertly navigating the circuits of the past. Sadness washed over me at the realization that our lives had veered so far from the innocence of those days. How did the world manage to morph into this maelstrom? As Mira typed furiously, her fingers flicking like hummingbird wings across the keys, the anxiety coiled tighter within my chest. "I can get in," she whispered, her brow furrowed in concentration. Just give me a moment. But as the seconds ticked by, the uncertainty clawed at me, threatening to tear through the fragile threads of hope we had spun around ourselves. A sudden noise echoed from the distance, and I froze, realizing the shadows from earlier were closing in. We need to work faster, I urged, my voice rising above the whirring machines. They could be here any minute. Mira's fingers danced across the keyboard, her determined expression shifting to one of urgency. I'm trying. Almost there, she replied, the tension in her voice revealing her own fears. The familiar rhythm of her fingers was a stark contrast to the storm raging within me, each tick of the clock escalating my desperation. Then, with a sudden beep, the screen flickered, illuminating a wealth of documents flooding the space before us. Names, transactions, messages that painted a picture darker than I had anticipated. I leaned in, scanning the words as reality swallowed me whole. There lay indisputable connections, betrayals woven tightly amongst the elite. This is it, I breathed out, exhilarated yet terrified. This could change everything. But before we could celebrate this moment of breakthrough, the clattering of footsteps echoed through the halls, heavy and determined, like demons searching for lost souls. We don't have much time, I barked, anxiety pinching my voice. Mira, download everything you can. We need to get out of here. I'm on it, she responded, her fingers flying over the keyboard as I felt my heart race, realizing we might not escape the darkness that threatened to engulf us. But it was also my resolve that pushed me forward, a fire ignited by the garbled truths revealed on screen. We can't just leave. We need to expose this, Clara said, her voice trembling with urgency and desperation. If they're coming for us, we can turn the tables. We have to fight back. But how do we fight against an empire? Daniel asked, his brow furrowed. We're outnumbered and outmatched. The strength of truth is stronger than their deception, I argued, the flicker of hope igniting within me. What we've learned here, it means they're not untouchable. We must leverage this. Just as I spoke, the door burst open, silhouettes rushing in with an ominous presence. Panic surged through my veins, and I turned to Mira, whose face blanched at the sight. We need to move. Now. Almost there, she gasped, the tension palpable as she slammed her fingers against the keyboard one last time. Get ready to run, I shouted, adrenaline pumping through my veins as the echoes of footsteps grew dangerously closer. We exchanged a look, mutual determination glimmering as we knew, in our hearts, this might be our last chance. With one final beep, Mira turned the screen toward us, a flash of triumph and urgency mixing into a whirlwind of potential. It's downloading. Let's get out of here. We darted toward the exit, barely slipping through the door before the energy of the looming figures burst into the room, a frenzied storm rushing to intercept our escape. Go, go, I urged, pushing Clara ahead of me while Daniel stayed close, the darkness invading my senses. I could feel the icy grip of dread clawing at my back as if the shadows themselves sought to ensnare us. We raced down the hall, the fear propelling us faster as the shouts of our pursuers harmonized with the thunderous echoes of our hearts. Just as we reached the exit, a heavy figure appeared before us, blocking our escape. It was Jonathan, every bit the specter I had envisioned, a smirk twisting his lips. And here I thought you'd think through your theatrics a little longer, he drawled, his voice smooth as silk yet riddled with malice. But it appears you're in over your heads. Get out of our way, Jonathan, I shouted, the words ringing with defiance, though deep inside, my heart was a cacophony of dread and hope. No, no, no. This makes for delightful sport, he taunted, blocking our path with confidence dripping from each word. 3 little misfits going against the vault of secrets I hold. How charming. Enough. I raised my chin defiantly, watching as the figures behind Jonathan shifted, ready to spring forward. You'll never silence us. His laughter echoed through the hall, a sound that sent shivers down my spine, the perfect blend of menace and amusement. Oh, but you're mistaken, my dear. Irrespective of fate, it's too late for a future you'll destroy. You've meddled long enough. Fueled by sheer determination, I dashed forward, but with a motion so swift, Jonathan sidestepped and shifted behind me, blocking any escape route before I could react. The world spun, adrenaline pulsing as I felt the energy shifting around Meth's irrepressible sense of inevitability lingering within the air. Fight back then, if you like. Jonathan pressed closer, his voice a whispered threat. You'll find the truth is often the sharpest blade. But just as his words pierced through the tumult, a sudden flash of color caught my eye, a figure darting behind him with a glint of recognition. Suddenly it clicked. Lucas. Betrayal and truths intertwining far more than I could fathom. Lucas, I shouted, my eyes wide in disbelief. What are you doing here? In an instant, under the septic rhythm of chaos, Lucas surged forward, shadows of uncertainty flickering across his face. I'm here to end this, he declared, his voice powerful yet wavering, a ghost of the connection we had shared years prior. You don't have to fight alone. And with that, he rushed into the fray as Jonathan wrinkled his brow in confusion. The moment was charged with electric urgency, every decision weighing heavy as we faced the precipice of necessity. Our stories and connections woven tighter, I felt the power surge within me, pooling beneath the fire of indignation. Let's go, I shouted again, taking the lead as we darted forward, powered by our enemy's surprise. Daniel, Clara, and Mira surged with me, breaking free through the aperture of chaos and fleeing to the promise of the outside world painted with shadows of uncertainty. As we stepped into the moonlit night, the echoes of our past and the truth we wielded felt like a fragile lifeline. The hurdles were high, but the gravity of our mission propelled us onward. Lucas fell into step beside me, his presence a reminder of trust reignited. We're in this together, he said, determination etched on his features. Together, I echoed, absorbing the truth that resonated within those words. This journey was no longer about uncovering secrets alone. It was about camaraderie against the vast corruption cascading around us. A formidable storm awaited us, but as we forged our path forward, that storm now felt like a catalyst for change. The darkness behind us was relentless, but the light of our determination illuminated a path toward truth. And so we ran together toward the uncertain dawn of what we would soon unveil as dawn broke across the horizon, lighting the path to our redemption. I knew we were no longer just chasing shadows, we were the hope rising against the tide, ready to redefine the very stories that shaped our lives. With our hearts interconnected and emboldened, we dashed toward the horizon, each step a defiance against the shackles of fear binding us. This was our moment of reckoning, and we'd face it together, come what may. The power of our unity, the strength of our connection would rise to envelop the darkened truths surrounding us. It was a monumental shift, the storm brewing in the shadows poised to explode. But amid it all, we stood firm, knowing the battle ahead would redefine us forever. And at that moment, as I inhaled the crisp morning air mingled with untold possibilities, I realized the greatest truth of all. Sometimes, when you confront the darkness, you uncover the brightest light, and together, we would turn the tide.